Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Day Darling. I should see what's going on on our lovely island of Fawnhollow today, as we'll be vibing, relaxing, chillaxing, all cool. I feel like I always start every single episode with that sort of same opening now. I've really got to change it up. Not the welcome to Animal Crossing, that's got to stay. It's tradition at this point, I suppose, to have that sort of tagline of opening. But I mean, it's sort of like, because that's become such a routine. Now I need to start. I'm starting to fall into other routines or things that immediately follow it or whatever. So I don't know what to talk about. Summer games done quick. I think that's started already. I haven't checked in for any of it, to be perfectly honest, but I should check in a little bit every now and then, because it is actually something which I do find quite enjoyable to watch. Anyway, hello everyone. Right now, Fawnhallow, it's 4:44 PM on Tuesday, June 28th, 2022. I will be honest that most of the time I will end up just sort of there'll be like a Reddit thread after the entire event happens and being like, oh, these are the Let's Plays that you gotta watch if you want something entertaining, and I'll just watch those ones instead of doing anything, instead of checking out them for myself, because I'm just like, there's a lot of them. I don't really know which ones are good on, which ones not. It's a screening sort of system. You trust other people's reviews being like, yeah, I trust that these people have a reasonable, well, not reasonable taste, but more like their taste aligns with my own enough that I can sort of be like, yeah, that's probably something I want to watch. And it hasn't steered me wrong in a lot of cases. A lot of times I'll just look down the list and look for a game I've played or know or want to play, or well, maybe not want to play, but have played or know a decent amount about in the past, and then I just watch it and I'm like, fantastic. There was a speedrunner who did Portal 2, I think it was last year. Fantastic. There was a Cuphead speedrunner once. That was pretty cool. And I can't really remember any others off the top of my head. Superb. But there was one really, really good one, but I also cannot remember what it was off the top of my head. So, maybe it wasn't as good as I thought. But, that sort of screening process is pretty good. In its own right. I mean, you can't do that for everything nowadays. With the advent of technology and distribution of media, of course, and social media making it far more accessible for everyone. But so much media in this world, you're going to have to pick and choose exactly what you want to watch and consume, because it's physically impossible to consume all the media that does exist in the world. If you try to watch every single YouTube video in existence, even if you watch it on like 100 times speed, I literally don't think you could get it all done. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think. No, I'm not convinced enough that we've done the steel fence. I don't know why I started with round tree like that, but apparently I thought that said steel fence. But I'm not super sure if we've done the steel fence or not in here, because I know in Happy in Paradise we use it quite often for a lot of our customizations, but of course that Happy in Paradise is not Fawnhollow. So I guess we'll Nookmal purchase it anyway, just in case. Just in case. You never know how it goes. Just to make sure we got a little bit of everything all over time. But yeah, anyway, that was the whole point of thumbnails and the little preview thing you get on YouTube now when you hover over things. You got to make informed, well, not really informed decisions necessarily, but you got to make decisions on things which are good, or things that you like to actually watch in the first place. There's always a little bit of a screening process in the media you consume, and does YouTube make it easier or harder for you? That's a question. That's a deep and philosophical, well, not really that deep and philosophical question, because obviously in the early days of YouTube, I don't know how long you've been on YouTube for, but I have used it actually from quite early days. Not when did it start? In 2006 or something. I can't remember. And I started using it around those sort of times. And sort of saw YouTube blow up, which is pretty crazy to think about in the first place. And, unsurprisingly, the things I'd watch on YouTube would just be people playing games. That's about it. I don't really remember much of the early ones off the top of my head, because, that's so long ago nowadays. But certainly some of the earlier ones I did tend to watch. And I talked about it. There's this guy called, Sonic Dude or whatever. There's this guy called, Cloud 8745, I think. I don't remember, Chugga Conroy, I suppose, before he got super massive. I used to watch him a little bit, but yeah. Anyway, that's not really what I'm here to talk about. I must say my neck kind of hurts. I wonder if my posture's not been good enough. But I've been trying to pay attention to my posture, but it's hard to tell if my neck's in the right position or not. It's a thing which happens quite often, if you, especially if you use like computers and when you're unawares, your head kind of comes forward a bit, and that's like bad for your neck because, you know, it puts strain. But the whole point of your neck is meant to hold up. Your head's actually kind of heavy. It's meant to hold up your entire head, right? So if you have your neck properly aligned with your head, then it will be held up vertically. So all of the stress will be basically on the neck as it's standing upright. So, you know, like you're pushing down onto a pole. That's the best way to support it, rather than having your neck go forward. I mean, you know, putting strain on it on an angle, which is not how it goes. But, you know, I can never really tell if my head's in the right position or not. But because it's a sort of thing, like also when you try and like straighten your back. So I get really distracted from what I was talking about, but I guess this is what we're talking about now. And it's a thing where, you know, if you know you've gone through your teenage years, you probably, you might, you know, relate to this, or maybe you might relate to this still now. But obviously, especially when I was a teenager, my posture wasn't the greatest. You know, slump forward, hunch shoulders, etc., etc. You know, my parents always be like, you know, roll your shoulders back or whatever. You know, head upwards. What is it? Chest out, head upwards. I don't really know the legitimacy of the other two things, but certainly you would like to have your shoulders rolled back a little bit, to not have like the hunched shoulder sort of posture or whatnot, because it's not good for your back. You know, you got to take care of your body and when you're younger, so you can, you know, reap the benefits when you're old, or not really reap the benefits, but more like reap the lack of deficits when you're older. Because, you know, it's the thing, like people always say about looking after your teeth. Luckily for me, I always, you know, looked after my teeth reasonably well, brushed my teeth. Not, I didn't always brush my teeth well, but at least I brushed them. You always want to look after your teeth when you're younger, because, you know, when you get older and you start getting like what are they called, cavities, etc., 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 that is a bit of a nightmare to deal with. And it's certainly, you know, it's one of the things that you want to, you know, make sure you got a solid foundation working with. You're working with a solid foundation when you're younger than something when you have when you're older. And same thing with posture as well, you know. It's also a thing I try to pay a lot more attention to when I was in my teenage years, but sometimes I get quite a bit lazy, and especially since nowadays I'm at my computer quite a lot, obviously. It's another thing I try to make sure my posture's always quite good. But, you know, I have found recently sometimes I get a little bit lazy of it. Sometimes, you know, I'm sitting by my chair instead of having, you know, I don't even know how to describe this position. A normal sitting down position, you know, feet planted firmly on the floor, back straight or whatever, or maybe leaning backwards a little bit like this, 45 degrees, you know, not jutting out my head forward or what have you. Sometimes I'll just, you know, like curl up onto a board on the chair and watch something. Maybe I'll just sort of like also like lie a bit sideways, you know, on the ground. I don't know what that sort of position's called either, when you have, you know, your legs out to one side or whatever, but sometimes I perch up on my chair like that. It's not good for your posture, you know, it's not good for your back, you know, look after your spine. You don't want to have spine problems later in life, you know, you don't, again, the spine sort of thing, it's like if it's all straight or whatever, the pressure you're putting on it goes through the spine, like, and as a pole rather than like as a bent, rickety, well, spine, I suppose, in the first place, like a snake or whatever. And then, you know, you don't want to put force and pressure on it like an adverse angle. You know, that can certainly lead to back problems later in life. And honestly, well, I mean, back problems can develop, I suppose, like at any time, and honestly could develop even if you do pay attention to your posture. But it's the sort of thing where it's like, probably shouldn't risk it, right? You know, let's try to just like nip that in the bud, try and get it sorted now, make sure my back problems don't, you know, get any worse. Well, get any worse. I don't actually have back problems. Well, that I'm aware of. I mean, I certainly have joint problems due to my hypermobility, but that's not really neither here nor there. Yeah, so what was I going to say? I forgot what I was going to say after this, to be honest. Anyway, so make sure you're sitting up straight, I suppose. I don't know where you're watching this video. I'd imagine a lot of people actually end up watching it on mobile. You know, it's crazy to me how many people actually, you know, use like YouTube and stuff like that on mobile. I don't actually like using YouTube on mobile. I prefer seeing a big screen, like a computer screen or a TV screen, to actually browse stuff. Watching things on mobile, I'm just like, it's so tiny, I can't really see anything. But yeah, again, I do play games on my phone. But there's also games that only exist on my phone and kind of require a touchscreen. Honestly, if I had like a tablet or something, I'd probably play them on my tablet. The only problem is, tablets aren't very portable. I kind of need like a phone which can grow to the size of a tablet and then like shrink again. So you're like, oh, you need one of those folding phones. I'm because I don't want one of those folding phones. They certainly seem like that fold, isn't it, in a phone? Doesn't it really seem like it could be a weak point, that's what it's called, in the design of a screen or whatever. Just like, I can't imagine anything but like a massive crease folding appearing on that phone screen, which seems like a bit of a nightmare to deal with. But again, I don't really know. I don't have one, so what do I know? I'm just conscious about my neck, my back, I'm not going to say the rest of that song. Obviously, it's not going to be very YouTube friendly. I'm looking at myself, well, not in my mirror, but like a reflection on my computer. So on my computer, does my posture look fine? My posture looks fine. Why does my neck feel like, ugh? It feels so weird. Maybe I just need to stretch it, you know? Stretch it downwards, stretch upwards, to the left, to the right. Maybe I need to do more like, maybe I should do radio exercises along with Animal Crossing to make sure that gets done. But yeah, no, it's a thing that, obviously we tried, everyone kind of knows, especially when you're a teenager, that it's like, oh, you know, your back posture is important. It's important that you know, sit up straight or whatnot and what have you. But it's the sort of thing where, like, when you first start doing it, it becomes really tiring on your back because your back's not used to holding that position right. So it sort of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, a downward spiral of when you have bad posture, you kind of keep the bad posture because you don't want to switch back to a good posture because excuse me, because your back muscles are, you know, tired from doing it, so it feels awkward, it feels painful, etc., 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 and you're just like, this is not how it's meant to be. I'm going to be honest also. I've had Flawless, you know, that My Little Pony song, stuck in my head literally for like the entire past week. That wasn't what I just sang. I just sang like Hercules or something there, but singing I just brought it to mind. It's literally been like the only song I've been singing, but I'm not going to sing it for you now, obviously. Unless, no, I'm not going to. It's not that stuck in my head. But yeah, I don't know. Posture, poise, grace, elegance is very important. And I like to think my posture's improved a lot since when I was a teenager. Because I was never really a teacher. I forgot what I was going to say. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I look back at some of my photos when I was a teenager. You know, I've got a real sort of like forward head thing going on, like hunched shoulders and whatnot. I like to think it's improved. Oh no, hold on. What if I go look at photos of myself now and see? See, the problem is when I look at my own photos is most of the photos are taken from my perspective. I don't have a lot of photos taken from the other person's perspective because, you know, I'm the one taking photos of my friend crew most of the time. So they're kind of selfies, which makes it quite difficult to see what my posture is at the time. Seems like my posture's okay, maybe? I don't know. This is why I need to go into the group albums and see things for themselves. Hopefully none of these videos automatically start playing and you'll start hearing all my random things. Looks okay. Looks okay so far. Looks pretty good, I think. Maybe? I don't know. Alright. So, who knows if my posture's any better? Hopefully it is. But there was this thing I used to do, especially to my friends in secondary school. It's going to sound harsher than it is, but it's not really. But it's, you know, we always go like posture check or whatever, and we go up like, you know, we sit around like benches at lunchtime or whatever happens. And when that happens, you know, the posture's too bad, and you know they've had too many posture checks, I'll put like my shin along their back to, you know, align, and then like pull their shoulders back to sort of like align it with them. It sounds a lot worse than it actually is. Like I'm not just like kneeing them in the spine. It's sort of just like I'm putting my shoulders back with a little bit of leverage. It's in a jokey way, you know how friends are with. Well, I suppose that's a bit presumptuous, but hopefully you know how friends are, you know? You sort of like, be jokey with each other and that sort of thing. Well, I'm not sure be jokey is really the right term for this sort of thing, but, you know, I'm just looking out for my buddies, you know? I want the posture to be good or whatever. So I align them with my shin, which is reasonably straight. Actually, is it that straight? I mean, it's not that straight now, look at it. There's a little bit of a curve in it, but, you know, certainly straighter than, you know, completely rolled forward. I like to think I wasn't hurting my friends. But maybe I was, and maybe he just never told me, but it does remind me of like and this is a really random story, but like an advert I saw in China once, because in China they have a lot of these like infomercials, well at least at the time, the age I saw them was 11ish or so, on these channels, and obviously I couldn't navigate the Chinese channels particularly well. I don't really know what I was looking at, but staying with my uncle and aunt, watching the TV, they had a lot of these like Chinese infomercials. And one of them was like of this what looked to be like a harness you're meant to wear, sort of like either under your clothes or under your coat or whatever, which is meant to sort of like correct your posture. I don't really know how it worked, but it basically it looks like a safety vest combined with a harness, and it's got like a metal rod or something in the back, which is meant to sort of like straighten out your spine, and you're meant to keep it on, and it's going to be like, oh, you know, this is how you sort out your posture. But of course, in very strange infomercial fashion, taking after like early 2000s Disney movies or whatever, they have like someone who's like dressed up as like a stereotypical nerd, you know, they've got the glasses on, whatever, tucked in shirt or whatever, and then they're just like they're walking around with terrible posture, and then it's just meant to be there, look at this poor person with terrible posture. Everyone hates them. They're so unpopular, whatever. Then they put on a back brace for a while, and then, you know, they lose their glasses. They get their makeup done or whatever. And their hair looks fantastic, and it's like, whoa! Now they're the most popular person in all the school with amazing posture, all thanks to this product. And it's just like a what? I'll say that there's certainly a lot of weird Chinese infomercials I've seen. Anyway, I remember like seeing that when I was very young, and there's a lot of like really bad Chinese infomercials, which obviously sell products which probably don't actually work in the first place. I mean, that's kind of what infomercials are in the first place. If a product actually worked, you probably wouldn't need that crazy infomercial in the first place. People would probably just buy your product. Obviously, that's not how things work, because marketing is a really important part in, you know, getting your word out there of what you have, but you know what I mean. There's actually one I think about, which is basically like vibrating, I don't know, what are those things called, where you, the electropads, which you like put onto your body to like stimulate things with like electric shocks or something for like electrotherapy. But it was like that, but they sort of like vibrate and shake back and forth, kind of like a shake weight. And you're just like meant to put them on your muscles, and you know, you do that for like 5 minutes, and it's like running a marathon or something like that. It's basically like you did vigorous exercise just by putting these like shaking weights or something onto your muscles, which obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously, I'm pretty sure that doesn't work. But they're all in that sort of vein. So I remember talking to my my friends, I don't know, about 10 years ago or something. No, 10 years probably a bit too far. I don't remember. Maybe around like when I was 16, 17-ish or something. And I was talking about, you know, these Chinese infomercials, talking about posture or whatever. And then I was just like, oh yeah, I saw this like infomercial for something in China where you could put, basically, it was like, I guess it's kind of like a back brace or something. Not saying about back braces don't work, but I was like, I wonder how the efficacy of this sort of thing as just a generalist consumer product to correct your posture. And then one of my friends told me, apparently, his sister actually bought it, and it was actually really good. So what do I know? It turns out that infomercial product or whatever is pretty good at, you know, like straightening out your back or something. So, I mean, it does make sense the more I think about it, like having some sort of like back brace as a support, like, because I've seen like wrist braces. Like, I even have my wrist brace, here it is, over here, for people who might suffer from RSA or carpal tunnel syndrome or whatever. I don't actually have carpal tunnel or anything like that, but I, because I do a lot of things which involve using my wrist and arms, I do use that when I like go to sleep or don't use my wrist, just to make sure that I'm not hyperextending it or anything, and, you know, preserve the longevity of my wrist, because if I suddenly lose function or like any usage of like my right wrist, that's going to be a bit of a problem. I'll say it's actually not that big a problem, because I actually can type really fast with one hand. you would not believe how effective I am at using a computer just using one hand. Apparently it's impossible for us to bury the hole from this side. But, you know, drawing with my left hand is significantly worse than drawing with right hand. Oh yeah, speaking of drawing, I've actually finished Stephen Sausage Roll thumbnail art. I loaded that yesterday. You'll see that at July 8th, I think, is when it's getting published. I recorded really far in advance. What's crazy is that mystery game, which I've talked about, I've nearly actually finished. I've not 100%ed it, and I'm actually, this is one of the first games I'm going back and forth if I want to 100% it or not, because it seems a lot more tedious than I would have expected to 100% it. I'm going a bit back and forth on whether I'm going to 100% it or not, but I'll probably try and 100% it for a little bit, just so, you know, I don't have to draw another thumbnail art for a while, because I'm going to be honest, I think Pi is going to probably be finished within the next month or so. We're getting very close to the end, is what I'll say for the Pi, whatchamacallit, series, if that's what you're watching. If you're not, I'd recommend it. Pi's a good game, but I recommend you play it, to be honest. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. I didn't think I'd enjoy it as much as I did, but that's perhaps because it was very story focused, as it turns out in the end. Anyway, that's not a point. Yeah, we got room for a few more flowers. That's a little bit more push. A little bit of Auntie Donna, anyone? Yeah, I finished a Stephen Sausage Roll thumbnail art. I would say both these thumbnail arts I've drawn, they both have very simplistic styles for the actual game themselves. I'm not particularly convinced they're that great. I think they're okay. I sort of look at them and be like, they're not my best work, but I guess it's fine. All in all. Like, I haven't actually looked at it for a bit as well. Let's look at the Stephen Sausage Roll thumbnail art. I'll look at it from my perspective. Okay, it's not as bad as I thought it was, to be honest. I just remember drawing it and being like, I'm not a fan of this. I will say Dee's head looks very wide in this, and I'm not sure why I've drawn her head so wide. I think it's because her snout is quite far to the right, but her eyes don't suggest that, so, you know, that's a bit of a perspective issue on my behalf, but I'll just be like, yeah, I'm just fitting the art style of Stephen Sausage Roll, question mark. Also, I don't think with sleeve makes any sense, but whatever. Who cares, you know? No one's gonna judge me on my inability, I suppose, to properly draw t-shirts. Maybe. I think it looks okay actually. She does kind of look like she's wearing a fondant, you know, like cake fondant or whatever. Oh well. Yeah, what was I going to talk about? Oh yeah, posture. You know, sit up straight. You know, I need like a constant reminder to sit up. Oh, I don't need that constant reminder. I like to think my posture generally reasonably okay, which is not, you know, amazing. I think a lot of the time you probably want your posture to be generally like pretty good, but I suppose that's, you know, it's not exactly something that you always have the greatest sense of control over. You kind of got to remind yourself when you can. But it's like with I don't know how helpful it is because I've never actually tried it myself, but there's a thing that people say is a good way to like remember to keep good posture. It's basically every time you walk through a doorway, remind yourself, be like, check your posture, or that sort of thing, because you walk through doorways all the time or whatever, and so it seems to be quite a common place for you to remind yourself. And as soon as you sort of like physically remind, or not physically, mentally remind yourself, like first 30 times you go through a doorway, you'll sort of just like unconsciously do it. So then every single time from then on, you're sort of like training yourself to have a Pavlov response to walking through a doorway, where you'll just sort of like sit up straight, etc. Well, I guess that is the problem with it, is you won't sit up straight. Is if you're already in the room for like an extended period of time, like say during class or what have you, it's not like you're gonna constantly be walking through doorways then, probably. Well, maybe you do, I don't know. Depends how often I suppose you need to leave class. But at least it helps in some aspect of your life, eh? Probably. Maybe? Yeah? No? I don't know. Oh wait, here's your posture check. Make sure you're sitting up straight. If you're not sitting, make sure you're lying down properly. I don't really know what that means, but don't like have your head at like a weird angle. You know, don't be sleeping on your arm or leg, because that will probably give you pins and needles, which is not exactly something you want. Make sure you're not holding a very uncomfortable position, you know. Just lie naturally. Act natural. The greatest advice I can give you. And yeah, hopefully things will be like that. I mean, people always say about things like with ergonomic setups, especially with your desk, it's very important. Like hold on, it's like your arms are meant to be like, if you held them out at right angles from your body, like as if you're like a robot, or if you're carrying a box directly in front of your stomach, they're meant to rest like naturally on your desk, which mine do, a little bit. As long as I'm sitting up straight, you know, your chair's meant to have like a slight 45-degree angle backwards. But the problem is, I feel like when I do that, then my head feels very uncomfortable, because I sort of like stick out my head instinctively to try and look at my computer monitor, which is not great, I don't imagine. Hold on. Let's just Google good back posture. Good back posture. Where's my head meant to be? Normal, what's this? Flat back. Good posture. Balanced upright posture with shoulders down and relaxed. I don't need a diagram, I need like a person. Oh yeah, that's meant to be a thing. You're meant to like, if you put your back directly against the wall, it's meant to be like your butt, the top of your back, and your head is meant to like lie flat against it or something. Shoulders down, back, and with a neutral neck. Maybe I've been trying to put my neck too far backwards, so I'm like, rather than having forward head syndrome, I have like backwards head syndrome. Is that a thing? I don't know. I need to like stand up against a wall, but the nearest wall I have is like, you know, I can't do that while simultaneously carrying on a conversation with this, so, you know, I had to try that at a different time. I'm going to check my posture. Wow, look at all these different types of posture you can have. Good posture, hollow back, flat pelvis, slumping posture, military posture, rounded shoulders. I don't know. I'm not like a spine doctor. What are they called? I don't really know. Isn't it like osteo something? No, that's a bone doctor, isn't it? I don't remember. I don't really know much necessarily about posture, or what have you. I just know it's a good idea to keep a good one. That's so vague. This is unhelpful at this point, you know. Oh, just do it right, you know. What kind of advice is that? I'm sorry, that's the best I can give you. I suppose Google it yourself and, you know, look at your own posture and see how well you can compare to that regard. And hopefully, you look good. Hopefully, you're like, ooh, you know, check yourself out in the mirror, you know. Give yourself a bit of a finger guns. Be like, wow, yeah, that's one handsome / beautiful / you know, cool kid that you've ever seen. I don't know. I was curious. I've still lost the plot. What's that chandelier? Oh my god. Oh no, I think I talked about this yesterday about the video of Toad singing Chandelier. It's one of the most hilarious videos I've seen, and you know I can't stop thinking about it. And I sent it to my friends, and my friends just absolutely hate it. Fair enough. It is pretty terrible, but it's so funny in my head. I wanna swing. It doesn't sound like that at all. I don't know why I gave Toad such a strange, well not strange accent, but an accent that he doesn't obviously have. Go look it up yourself. Toad singing Chandelier. It's fantastic, and you'll probably break your eardrums, but it's very entertaining. At least I found it quite amusing. But anyway, going to round off this episode here, I think. So, if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Any likes, comments, subscription, shares are greatly appreciated. Join my Dear Darling Discord. Follow me on Twitter down below. Hope we can see each other again. But for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now. And check your posture.